Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another round of Zoo School Live. My name is Laura, and we're going to be meeting with a very special animal in just a moment. As always, with other zoo schools, if you guys have questions, please feel free to put them in the comments as we go along, and I'll try my best to answer those towards the end. We're also going to be trying something new this time around because not everybody is able to tune in and watch live with school being back in session and people going back to work. We are going to offer the ability to put questions in our posts ahead of time. So look out for that Zoo School Live post the day before or the morning of, and you are welcome to put your questions there and we'll answer them live on the air, all right? So today we're going to have snack time with my friend Sydney. So we have our little lizard friend Sydney. He is a blue-tongued skink, a blue-tongued skink. Now, of course, he's facing this other direction here. We're going to see if he'll come on over and say hi. But watch his face. You might actually see why he's called a blue-tongued skink. A skink is just a different type of lizard. They're usually categorized as having kind of a really wide body and a very thick head with a long tail, as you can see, and his legs are pretty small. So he does crawl like other lizards, but he actually kind of pushes his body in a sort of slithering motion along the sand or the dirt, wherever he might be. I'm actually going to see if he wants to turn a little bit so we can see him nice and close and check out that nice blue tongue. There he is. So, as you can see, the blue tongue is pretty obvious there, and we'll come back to why he has that once we get into how he protects himself. But we're going to start off today by having a little bit of snack time with Sydney. We're going to do sort of a taste test. So skinks, and in particular blue-tongued skinks like Sydney, are what we call omnivores. So that means they eat a little bit of everything. They might eat some different plant material, some fruits and berries, but they also are going to eat other creatures like insects and invertebrates such as worms, and sometimes even some small mammals, maybe like baby mice. So they are not picky eaters. They're going to eat a little bit of everything. And inside of their mouth, they do have nice little rows of teeth to help them to grab their food. They're not super good at chewing. They're mostly going to grab and crush and then swallow in big chunks. But they do have the ability to hunt down their food using their senses, such as their sense of smell and their senses of sight. You can see he's got some nice big eyes that face sort of off to the side on his head so he can see around him, but also towards the front. So today we're going to go through a couple of Sydney's foods that he gets here at the zoo. So we do try here at the zoo to replicate their natural diet as much as possible. So on some days, Sydney might get a salad. On other days, he might get some protein, some meats. So we can take a look at what we've got over here today. I have a couple little plates set out. So on this plate here, he has some of his fruits and vegetables. So Sydney gets a salad, I believe twice a week. We actually give him a salad of different greens and different fruits and veggies. And then he also gets these very strange little extra bits right here. Those are called garden veggie bits. So they're like compact, packed full of minerals. It's almost like eating a vitamin or something. So we're going to try those today. And then he also has some insects. We have a mixture of mealworms and crickets in here. He really likes his bugs. And then over here we have some proteins. We have some little bits of meat for him to try. So we're going to give Sydney an option to taste test through all of these. I want you guys at home to kind of think, if I was Sydney the skink, what might be my favorite food? Do you guys think it's going to be the fruits and the vegetables? Or do you think he'll prefer the bugs or maybe the little bits of meat? So we're going to go through and offer each of these to him and see which ones he likes. So we'll start off with his healthy options here, his fruits and his vegetables. And we'll start with some greens to see if Sydney is interested in some greens today. This looks like a little bit of spinach or some lettuce. So we're just going to kind of wiggle it around in front a little bit, see if he's interested. Oh, he might do a little taste with that tongue. Well, we're not getting a very strong reaction, but he is checking it out. Well, let's try some squash. Maybe he's in a squash mood today. Oh, that was a pretty hard no. That's okay. Maybe some carrot. I like carrots. You guys like carrots at home? Sydney is not feeling his vegetables very much. And that's okay. We're going to move on to some fruits. We've got some strawberries, some grapes. Now, in the wild, he's not necessarily going to come across all these different fruits that we offer him here at the zoo, because in the wild, Sydney would be found in Australia. So he would not live here in North America, definitely not here in Pennsylvania, at least not outdoors in the wild. He would be more, ooh, okay, all right. Strawberries, he's a fan. I agree. Strawberries are one of my favorite fruits. So as I was saying, he's actually from Australia. He'd be found in the grasslands, the forest, and the desert areas. All right. So we're a fan of strawberry. Let's see. I've got a little bit of pineapple. This is pretty special fruit. This is definitely not something he would come into contact with in his natural habitat. He's not seeming too super interested in that one either. So let's give grapes a try. Grapes are a favorite with a lot of our reptiles, actually a lot of our animals. Would you like a grape? Oh man. Oh, yeah, there we go. Good job, buddy. So it's hard to see inside of his mouth, but he does have, again, little rows of teeth to help him to chomp down and grab and kind of hold on to his food. But lizards aren't going to chew their food necessarily like we do. They're going to smush it around a little bit. Now, he has jaws that are powerful enough to crush snail shells, so they are pretty strong. And if he felt like he had to, he might use them to protect himself. He's not going to go around trying to bite things all the time, but it is something he could do to keep himself safe. All right, we're going to give one of these little veggie nuggets a try. See if he's interested. Oh, all right. So that was definitely a plus. So think of these little things as kind of like I said, little vitamins, or like your gummy vitamins you get at home. I know I have gummy vitamins at home. So these are just kind of packed full of good stuff. Yeah, he's definitely into that today. Good job, buddy. So again, Sydney gets a salad around twice a week. Now that doesn't seem very frequent, but because he's a lizard and thus a reptile, he actually has a very slow metabolism compared to us. So lizards and other reptiles don't have to eat nearly as often as we humans or other mammals have to. Was that it? You only had room for 2? All right, that's okay, buddy. So we're gonna move on to our insects now. So I've got some crickets and I've got some mealworms. So let's see if these are what Sydney's interested in today. All right, we'll see if we can get him to move a little bit too. Sometimes he likes to chase down his food. No, on the crickets today? All right. Well, let's try a mealworm instead. So we do try to give a variety of insects to our animals. Just like variety is important in our lives, it's important in our animals' lives as well. Well, mealworm? Oh my goodness, Sydney. Let's give a cricket a try again. I'm going to see if I can get a wiggly one. Oh, well, that one might be, there we go. Maybe he just wanted it to be moving. Hey, there you go. All right, so Sydney just needs a little bit of a challenge, apparently. So we can make that happen for sure. Did he get it? So sometimes it does help for his little insects to be moving, because in the wild, obviously, tongs wouldn't be appearing from the air to offer him food. He would have to actually chase it down and find it. So we're going to just make a little space over here with less sand, because I don't want him to necessarily shove his face in all that sand and get a mouthful of it. And we're going to let him have some little crickets over here. So let's see, Mr. Sydney, I'm going to disturb you for just a moment here. Here we go. Okay. So let's see if we give him a few more little cricket options here. There we go. Yep, so he likes those wigglers. And this is good. When we feed him normally, we do give him live crickets. Today I was kind of giving him some live and not alive, just because we don't necessarily want them to all escape into our classroom. Oh, we're interested in the mealworms too. There you go. So he'll use that tongue to kind of reach out and grab his food. Now, as Sydney's having his bug extravaganza here today, we can talk a little bit about how he would keep himself safe from other animals. So Sydney enjoys snack time, but he obviously would not want to become somebody's snack. So in the wild, they have a couple different ways that they'll keep themselves safe. One of them is going to be his pattern. You can see he's got really nice colors, some tan and gray and brown. All those colors help him to camouflage. So it helps him to blend in. Remember, he would be from Australia, from the outback and the forest and the scrubland. So he would have to blend in with leaves as well as sand, as well as rocks and dirt. So that pattern really does help him to hide. The other big thing is that blue tongue. We keep seeing him stick it out to catch his food and use it to kind of push the food back in his mouth, but that blue tongue serves another purpose. In the wild, if you think about other types of animals that might have bright colors, think of dart frogs and certain snakes that have patterns and colors that are as a warning sign. His blue tongue serves the same purpose. So that bright blue, if he feels nervous, if he needs to protect himself from another animal, he'll actually puff his cheeks out and make a hissing sound and stick that bright blue tongue out. And that shows the other animal that he could be dangerous. In particular, it usually means that an animal is poisonous. So in Sydney's case, he's actually kind of a big liar. He's not venomous or poisonous, but he's using that bright blue color to trick animals into thinking that he is. So that is one way that he will protect himself. He will stick out that blue tongue, he'll hiss, he'll make his body appear bigger. The other thing he can do is he can actually drop his tail. So if an animal were to grab onto his tail, he could actually kind of have it disconnect from his body, and it would start to wiggle around and thrash around, and that would be something that would distract a predator. So thankfully here at the zoo, Sydney doesn't have to worry about that at all. We keep him nice and safe from predators, but in the wild there would be lots of things that would want to eat him. Things like birds of prey, even kookaburras, dingoes, and larger snakes, and feral cats. So these are all things that Sydney would have to watch out for in his natural habitat. So I'm going to move on to his little meat bits here and see if he would like to try some of those, since he cleared out all of those insects. Those were clearly some of his favorites today. So we've got some little meatballs for him. We're going to see if he wants to follow those around. Now, Sydney doesn't get these meatballs very often, so this is like an extra special snack. We'll see if he if he still likes them. Oh, I think he does. Oh, there we go. All right, good job, buddy. So you can get a really good view. We'll see if he'll open that mouth nice and wide again. There you go. Excuse me. So he's really enjoying those nice big meatballs. Here's another one. So again, he does not get these on a regular. This is kind of an extra special snack, a little bit enrichment for him today. But in the wild, he might hunt for some small animals, like small mice, and even other small lizards and snakes. So protein is a very important part of his diet. All right, guys. Last little snacks for Mr. Sydney. These are going to be our little pieces of mice for him today. Oh, yeah. We're definitely enjoying those. So a couple other fun facts about blue-tongued skinks. Sydney, our friend here, he's 16 years old. So he's a pretty old lizard. They can live over 30 years in a zoo setting. In fact, we used to have one that lived here at the zoo who was over 30 years old. In the wild, they usually live around 10 or so years, depending on if there are predators around. They're most active during the day, and they like to soak up that nice heat. You can eat some sand now? That doesn't seem very good. And spend most of their time crawling around, looking underneath things to try to find some food. And they're pretty common throughout Australia. And thankfully, they're not really endangered in the wild. Their populations are doing pretty well. The biggest threat to them is going to be the pet trade, as well as, unfortunately, sometimes people don't want them hanging around in their backyards, even though they're a very important pest control. As you saw today, Sydney really enjoys eating different insects like crickets and worms and things like that. So if you have a blue-tongued skink living in your yard, they're going to be pretty good pest control. So unfortunately, they're a little misunderstood sometimes. I want to make sure we have time for any questions you guys might have today. Remember, throw those in the comments if you would like to ask something about our friend Sydney. And my friend Elisa behind the camera is going to help us out today.
All right, it looks like Laura would like to know who makes his snacks.
Who makes his snacks? So, most of the time, our friend Sydney's salad is actually made by our volunteers in our kitchen. We have diet docents who help to prepare our reptile salad. We also have an amazing commissary keeper named Ian who puts together many of our animal diets. So those guys help to make sure that Sydney gets all the best fruits and veggies in a salad whenever he's going to eat that.
Margaret has 2 questions for us. She would like to know if Sydney gets any enrichment.
That's a great question. So we do give Sydney enrichment. You can kind of see we've got some little plants and things hanging around here. In Sydney's enclosure, we try to give him different things to hide under and climb around because we do want him to exercise and explore. He also likes to go underneath logs and rocks and things like that. We can give scent enrichment to him and our other reptiles, so we might give them different herbs to smell. And then, of course, on rare occasions, he does get some food enrichment like he did today, so he got to try some different foods and show off on Zoo School what his favorites were.
And then Margaret's other question was, what are blue-tongued skinks' predators?
Great question. So their biggest predators in the wild are going to be different birds of prey, so things like hawks and eagles and even falcons. And then different types of larger reptiles like snakes. There are lots and lots of animals that live in Australia, much bigger species of snakes. And then kookaburras, which are a type of bird species that actually is a predator as well. They eat small lizards, including blue-tongued skinks. And you might be familiar with the kookaburra because they make that crazy laughter call, so you should definitely look them up. And then feral cats and dingoes are also big predators for blue-tongued skinks. So remember, they're going to use their camouflage, they're going to use that bright blue tongue to scare off any predators, and then they can also, if they need to, drop their tail and make it thrash around as a distraction.
We have someone who is also named Sydney, and she just wanted to say that she enjoys that they have the same name. They are twins.
That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you got to have snack time at home while Sydney here got to have snack time.
Carol would like to know, does Sydney play with any toys, so toy enrichment?
Oh, good question. I have not seen Sydney play with toys in the way that you might categorize like a cat or a dog playing, but he definitely can manipulate things. So he might push things out of the way, he'll crawl under things, he'll smell things. So he's not necessarily going to play fetch or play with puzzles the same way some animals do, but he is good at pushing things around and moving things and checking things out. So not the same kind of play, but he does interact with enrichment.
We have another question. Does he like to swim or be in water?
Great question. So he's not a very good swimmer. You can kind of take a look. I'm going to move him a little bit closer for you guys. You can see that his body is pretty wide and kind of flat. So he's not really designed for swimming. He doesn't have webbed feet. He just has little claws and toes. But he can go in the water, and he will go in the water to soak, to clean himself off, to hydrate a little bit. So they are found across a wide variety of habitats in Australia, both the desert and the grasslands and the forest. So depending on which habitat they're in, they might need to soak a little bit and enjoy some of that water when it's available, but they're not great swimmers. So he definitely will go in the water and soak, but he's not going to swim very far.
Susan would like to know if Sydney has any favorite people or caretakers at the zoo.
I like to think that I'm one of Sydney's favorites because I like using him and visiting with him for programs. But as far as I know, he does not necessarily have any strong bond to any one of us. I think Sydney's favorite people are usually the ones that show up with the snacks. So today I'm probably high on that list.
Carol would like to know if Sydney has any special friends.
Great question. So in the wild, blue-tongued skinks are what we call solitary. So they do not live in groups. They don't really hang out with one another. They would get together to breed or to mate, but then they kind of go their separate ways. So here at the zoo, we replicate that in the fact that Sydney really doesn't live with any other skinks. He lives in his own enclosure. He does have some neighbors, so he lives up in our reptile area for our ambassadors, and so he has a couple other lizard neighbors and snake neighbors, but none of them ever really come into contact, and they're okay with that.
And that looks like the last question that we have.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in with myself and Sydney. Hopefully you enjoyed our little snack time. We're going to be doing Zoo School every Tuesday and Thursday through the month of May, so make sure you tune in when you get a chance at 11 a.m. And of course, just like always, if you have other questions, feel free to post them in the comments. We'll come back and answer them. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday.